Okay, folks, I think we'll get going. So welcome to the session around Enterprise Social. My name's Ruben Krippner. I'm a Principal Program Manager on the engineering team for Dynamics CRM. So during the course of this session, we're going to go through the business background around social, the business opportunity around social, in terms of what we've got today from a Microsoft standpoint, and where we're heading from a roadmap perspective to allow you to put together enterprise social solutions for your customers. So there's no question, we keep sort of talking about it, but this is definitely the era of the social customer. From a personal experience perspective, pretty much I'm a social customer. I don't buy anything really unless I get a recommendation from peers. I read online reviews extensively. I buy a lot of stuff off Amazon, and I trust the mob's view in terms of what's going on. I don't trust reviews that have bad grammar and bad spelling. But other than that, I definitely am a social customer. I challenge organizations to be listening to me on Twitter. I challenge organizations through Facebook in terms of complaints and those sorts of things. And it's definitely no question that is becoming a pervasive part of human life. 44% of consumers are now complaining via social media, whether that's blog posts, whether it's complaints in Twitter, Facebook, so on and so forth. And a huge proportion, almost a third of the world's population, are now engaged in some form on social networks and social media. The sheer volume of tweets and conversations and going on Twitter staggering. 200 million posts each day, an incredible amount of content. If you take out Britney Spears, Ashton Kutcher, leaves about 20,000 that are actually of useful information for us. But the reality is that it is such a phenomenon that it is influencing how people interact, how they connect. Facebook is now Fred was humorously talking about the fact he now gets 10 email reminders from Facebook about people's birthdays who he then realizes he has no idea who they are. But the reality is that it's a great way to connect with people. I'm an Australian living in Redmond now, and I lived in the UK previously. If I didn't have Facebook, my ability to connect and stay engaged and remain friends with folks from all over the world would be very, very difficult. So when you look at these sorts of things, you understand how much social is becoming such a change agent for people's lives. The other aspect is, and one thing that I also want to make sure that we cover today, is that social is not just a business-to-consumer play, it's also a business-to-business. So if I'm looking at LinkedIn, it's how do I identify in a sales deal that people have some kind of relationship that I actually care about. How do I, from a partner perspective, we use social listening and analytics, and in fact we're starting to roll out NetBreeze internally to pick up on what people are saying about products, what people are saying about the event, partner conference. The partner conference team are actually using NetBreeze to analyze social media and understand the sentiment around what you, the attendees, think about the event, whether the catering's good, whether the content's good, whether the temperature of the room is freezing. And I'm bringing a hoodie tomorrow when I present because it's freezing in here. But what it means is that people are far more informed, far more connected, and as a result, in a sales context, people are almost 2/3 or 60% of the way through the sales cycle. They've already pretty much made the decision about their short list of vendors or their short list of products they're going to go with. I'll bet you when you deal with your customers, most of them are coming from a perspective on at least being relatively informed, relatively understanding about who their short list of vendors are going to be, and then challenging you on the perceptions and so on that they've read and understood and derived from social media and other web resources. The other thing is that social is now becoming not just another channel, but a pervasive and important channel. 20% of social media or social customers who are challenging organizations to listen to them about their problems, their issues, their concerns, their questions, are expecting a result within an hour. An incredible, statistic. When you consider that only 18 months ago, 24 months ago, if you tweeted and someone responded, didn't matter whether they say, look, we're not going to help you, just the fact that they were listening was important. Now, people are actually expecting a response. A fifth of customers are expecting a response, and that's only going to increase. So social is something that can't be ignored. How many in the audience are actually dealing with customers who have raised or have a social requirement? Yeah. I bet you if I'd asked this even last year, it would be maybe a third. The year before, only a few hands would go up. So definitely, and one thing that I think we should take great encouragement from, and I'll start to get into this, is we're making the right investments to support you in dealing with those customer requirements. So that's important and valuable. On top of that, a huge proportion of customers and organizations have remote workers. Microsoft has such a distributed workforce. We can work from home pretty much whenever we want to, but we remain engaged with social tools like Yammer, like Lync, like Skype, and it allows us to stay productive. So that's, again, something that's going to translate moving forward. But I think the key to all of this stuff is that we've now got a generation entering the workforce, the millennials or Gen Yers or whatever you want to call them. But this is the first generation that's grown up completely connected. Always have had internet connectivity, albeit dial-up in some contexts, but they're used to social networks. In fact, if you look at certain colleges now, they're not handing out email addresses anymore. They're expecting you to use Facebook and Twitter and these sorts of things for communications. And so this is a generation that are the Facebook era. And they have those expectations about when they come into the workforce about the types of user experiences that they want. And hence why Yammer and Chatter and other enterprise social networks and Jive have thrived in the new world, where people have expectations around how they go and ask questions and find expertise, those sorts of things. So if we look also, there's a huge number of opportunities that organizations want to take advantage of with social around knowledge management. How do I break down silos in the organization to help me find that expert who can answer my question? To help me find that expert that can help me navigate through that complex business process. So these are the things that are kind of shaping the world. If we look at marketing, service, sales, and so on, these are the scenarios that are driving the investments that we're making, and certainly are the scenarios that organizations are asking from Microsoft when we talk to people in executive briefings and so on. So if you look at the marketing requirement and the marketing function and how we deal with the social customer, brand reputation is a huge, huge challenge for organizations in the modern world. You can, in one fell swoop, so how many of you guys eat at Taco Bell? All right, I apologize. I'm now going to completely gross you out. Recently, Taco Bell had one of their brainiac employees decided that they would tweet a photo of them licking a stack of taco shells. No question that guy deserved to get fired, but the more brainless thing was he decided to share it with 200 million other people in that context. Naturally, there was a firestorm of public opinion, certainly on Twitter, but it went viral across Facebook, it went across all kinds of social networks that showed this photo of this bozo licking this food. Now, naturally, Taco Bell had a huge public relations nightmare on their hands. They first of all had to know that it was going on, and then they had to take action. So your ability to destroy your brand or manage it and make things proactive or positive are very subject to the whims of social networks. So it's the age-old thing of you can't control the conversation. All you can do is listen and engage. So managing brand reputation is very, very important. Domino's Pizza in the US had a similar thing where a couple of their, again, less than intelligent employees decided to stick plasters or Band-Aids into the pizzas and thought it was a great joke, made a video and posted it to YouTube. And so from that, again, a huge firestorm, Domino's actually put in place, they were listening, they put in place an incredible response plan to the point where they outlined their action, they apologized profusely, they talked about the steps that they were making, they offered incentives to win back customer loyalty, and as a result, they turned what was a very negative situation, they've strengthened their brand sentiment and their business is actually growing. So these sorts of things around brand reputation are becoming increasingly important. Campaign effectiveness, so again, similar concept but more in a microcosm. So the example I like to give here is in the 1980s, Coca-Cola launched New Coke. If they'd done the same thing in today's world and been listening to how that campaign was resonating with customers, they would have pulled it within days, saved themselves hundreds of millions of dollars and a huge impact on their brand and their recognition. So these sorts of things are campaign effectiveness can really be driven. You can refine campaign messaging as a result of feedback on social networks. Huge opportunities if you've got the right tools. Publishing content, so using it as an outbound marketing channel. The ability, one example I love is from my homeland where Australia, or Queensland specifically, which is kind of like the Florida of Australia, probably less older people, but still a beautiful location, beaches, rainforest, that sort of thing. And so they wanted to drive tourism to that. So they set about a social marketing campaign offering the best job in the world. And essentially, what you had to do was put in a video submission on YouTube. They had a Facebook page, Twitter campaign, that sort of thing. And you had to submit why you were the right candidate for the best job in the world. And the best job in the world was to basically sit on one of the tropical islands in the Great Barrier Reef, and all you had to do was blog, and you were basically a beach bum for 6 months, and you got paid $100,000 for the privilege of just doing nothing. So it really was the best job in the world. As a result of it, they had millions of entrants from over 80 countries, all applying for this job. The mainstream media picked up on this and further sort of broadcasted out, and it became this really high-profile, innovative marketing vehicle. And it translated into hundreds of millions of dollars of additional tourism revenue for the state of Queensland. As a result, they've relaunched that particular campaign again. They've now offered 6 jobs across different parts of Australia, and they're having great success around that. So it's amazing how you can, by publishing content on these social hubs and pointing people towards mainstream content, it's a fantastic marketing vehicle. And I also talk about business to consumer a lot. This is another area where business to business is very important to us. So one of the things that Microsoft does is we listen for social influencers. We listen for the people that write blogs or tweet. So we definitely want to understand what Mary Jo Foley is saying, and Paul Greenberg, and other important CRM industry analysts. So we know them by name, but using these tools, we can also identify people who have reach. So if for whatever reason, someone who's got 20,000 followers says something negative about your product or service, that's a potential concern. So what you want to be able to do is potentially identify those individuals and bring them into your own community, your own influencer, your own focus group, whatever you want to call them. But it's that identification of those social influencers that's very, very important. Then we look at how we actually sell. So from a selling perspective, a lot of the scenarios in marketing have been around the external social. When we look at selling, it's predominantly around the internal social. So the ability to collaborate. When you've got a team working together in pre-sales, mainstream account management, there's a number of moving parts or members of that virtual team that are needed in order to be successful. So again, the ability to either from a mobile device or from a browser using a very simple experience like Facebook, you're able to go and collaborate around these deals. Capturing social buying signals, the ability to understand and derive trends, understand opinions. There's all kinds of things. Microsoft Research have some fantastic innovation around identifying themes or entities or moods or emotions. So not only can I identify whether a tweet was positive, negative, or neutral, I can identify whether there was an intent to buy or sell, or I can identify the emotion analysis around whether it was angry or sad or joy or what have you. So how you actually listen to and potentially capture and intercept buying opportunities is another opportunity with selling. Gathering social insights, just being able to understand more about who I'm dealing with. If I'm meeting with someone the next day, I want to be able to understand. I do this when I present at executive briefings. I just go in and have a look at the social buzz around a particular company, try and identify who the key executives are who will be in that room and understand their background and their motivation. It's all just basic kind of research, but there's a wealth of information in the social sphere around it. And then engaging on social channels, whether or not that's through Twitter, Facebook, whether it's about setting up external Yammer groups to be able to go and engage people, invite them and work with them. You know, imagine the process where you're preparing a proposal for a prospect of yours. You have the ability to invite them into a Yammer social group, a secure Yammer social network, and exchange documents and collaborate and ask questions and receive feedback around that proposal, all in a very systematic and simple fashion. Then we look at the social customer, so extending that service channel, being able to listen and understand what people are saying on those social channels about you. More importantly, being able to convert those into cases or leads or opportunities and transition them into proper or formal sales, service and marketing processes. Knowledge management. Customers know the products better than any of us, pretty much. They shape the opinions, they answer questions and solve problems for each other every single day. So being able to kind of harvest that, identifying blogs that have solved particular problems that customers are facing and being able to reuse that so that other customers benefit from it. Using it as an early warning system. So these are the reasons why Domino's Pizza and Taco Bell and so on are able to respond, because they have these early warning systems. And we've got some tooling coming in the NetBreeze acquisition that will allow you to set these things up for your customers. And overall, measuring the social care sentiment, the ability to actually say, based on a service interaction, whether people were positive, negative, neutral about that particular experience. So how do I actually get started with a social strategy? And a lot of the time, this is an interesting thing. I talk to a lot of organizations about social. And the thing that shocks them, particularly from a Microsoft employee, is the technology is actually the least of your concerns. It's how do you actually define and set up your strategy that's most important. And I was presenting yesterday at a pre-day event for a certain group of partners. One of the opportunities that I listed for partners is around a social consultancy. So organizations, doesn't matter whether they're big or small, the number one piece of feedback I get from these organizations is, how do I get started? I know I need to do something in social, but I don't know how to get started. So there's a huge opportunity for you, the partner community, to be that guide. It doesn't necessarily even translate to software implementation, but organizations are seeking best practices on how to go and set up a social strategy for their organization. So I've just listed 4 things that I think are a pretty good framework to start. 1, define and prioritize the objectives. like any business objective, like any business strategy, you need to define what success looks like. And so that could be, do I want to get better collaboration inside the organisation? Do I want to understand what my customers and partners and stakeholders and influencers are saying? But start simple and build from there. And then on top of that, just like any CRM implementation, if you don't have executive sponsorship or executive buy-in, the thing will fail. So the classic case there is, unless there's an executive, whether it's the VP of marketing or the IT manager or someone within the organisation who actually is backing that program, it's doomed to failure. So then plan the approach. What's the scope of what you're doing? Microsoft does it really well. We've carved off specific brands that we look at, and we've invested in resources who do this every day. They monitor what people are saying, they've got engagement teams who can reach out, and they start that process. But they were very deliberate in terms of the products and the business areas that they went after, and they just didn't try and boil the ocean. So other things that need to be in the plan. What's the response plan? What's the escalation? Let's say one of my employees does lick the taco shell stack. What are we going to do? Do we give it off to the customer service team? Is it a marketing function that handles it? How do we handle the PR? All of those sorts of things. You don't even have to be a business to consumer, but you need to be able to plan that. Governance. No one, in Microsoft, there's a select group of people who are socially savvy that are given the keys to be able to publish on behalf of Microsoft. You need to make sure that there's governance over who can say what and when. Otherwise, you're disclosing roadmap, you're making statements that you can't meet. Any kind of damage can be done by someone who has good intentions but shouldn't be posting on behalf of the company. So setting up all of that governance model. None of these things are technology elements at all. This is just good business sense that needs to be put in place. Determine what the success criteria is. Is it going to be based around just user adoption? Is it going to be based around volume of people talking, followers on Twitter, likes on Facebook, these sorts of things? And then, like all things, review and refine constantly. So this is a great framework, I can tell you. When I start, setting the business objectives, I start setting the business opportunities, and then I sit down and talk to them about, and here's how you get started. Typically the response is, I didn't think that would come from someone from Microsoft, but it's the way to start those conversations. And then I hit them with this slide. Snake charm them for a bit. But essentially the idea is that you need to make sure that you overcome any skepticism. Like the minute that I hear an executive or someone involved in a social strategy says, we've got a Twitter account and a Facebook page, so we're social, then you know that they're kind of missing the point. They need to be convinced. They need to understand the magnitude and ramification about undertaking a social strategy. So what are the elements, and this is what drives the things that we're making investments in. What are the elements of a comprehensive social CRM solution? And by the way, Microsoft doesn't have everything on this matrix, but we're definitely investing to get there. You need that listening and analysis capabilities to understand what's going on. You need that enrichment capability so that when I'm looking in an email or I'm looking in a contact or an account record, I've got a richer picture of what that person, what that company, or what that opportunity or process is. I need to be able to engage directly either from within CRM or whatever business application I'm in, but being able to engage with them on the channel that they contacted me on. Being able to publish, the ability to define marketing collateral and use publishing technologies to push that out onto Facebook and Twitter and so forth. And then from a development perspective, I need this framework, this technology capability to be embedded in custom applications. Or I want APIs to be able to programmatically work with these social tools when it's not necessarily in a CRM context. So these are the elements, and we're driving investments, acquisitions, and development in all of these areas, both in Dynamics CRM and predominantly in Dynamics CRM, but across Office 365, across Yammer, and across other business areas as well. So let's look at what Microsoft are bringing to the table, both today and where we're sort of heading. The first one is, this is our vision in terms of how we're going to differentiate and why our view is unique. We want seamless social. So social is not this thing. It's not a solution. It's just part of how we work. Social is how humans interact. This is the big thing. There's been a lot of intellectual hoopla, and there's been a lot of hype around social, but the reality is, social is, we're doing a social thing now. You guys are participating in a presentation. We're all connecting as part of this room. Social tools have just changed how that happens. It means that people are able to have conversations and understand what's going on much faster, globally and in real time. So our intention is that we want a seamless experience, whether I'm in CRM, whether I'm in Outlook, whether I'm in SharePoint, regardless of my device, the ability to sort of bring this together into one seamless solution, one seamless scenario. It needs to be contextual. So if I'm working on a sales opportunity, I want to be able to collaborate around that process, or I want the enrichment, I want the insight about that person or that prospect in the context that I'm at. I don't want to have to jump to 6 different tools in order to go and get it. So that ties into the seamlessness. Availability. We want to make sure that the tooling is there, not just for a select few. We don't want it just to be for a group in the marketing department with an incredibly expensive and complex tool. We want everyone in the organization to benefit from social insights and be able to engage socially. And then we want it to be insightful. So building on that enrichment story, make me smarter. How do we drive adoption of the system? Users need to see value from it. And one way that we can make the application sticky is it makes me smarter. I don't have to go and do research. I don't have to jump to another system to ask a question of a colleague or look for expertise around a process. I want to be able to do it in one central place. You heard a number of times about pretty much the 1-year anniversary since the acquisition of Yammer. It's very important to understand, or for you to understand, where Yammer sits as far as Microsoft is concerned, and certainly where it plays from Dynamics. So Yammer forms the social or conversation layer for a range of Microsoft technologies. It will always be offered as a standalone cloud service, so if you want to be able to use it just for social collaboration, you can do that. It will be offered as an option for the conversation or social layer of SharePoint, and I'll demonstrate that in just a second. It will also be part of Office 365. In fact, it's coming very, very soon, where I'll just be able to have Yammer as part of my Office 365 subscription and have single sign-on to be able to actually get into that tool in one seamless fashion. And then obviously from a Dynamics CRM perspective, it's a huge bet for us as part of our embedded, integrated social collaboration story. And so it's going to give all of these technologies, the social networking capabilities, microblogging, all of those Facebook and Twitter-like experiences right across that technology stack. So one connected platform. Let me just go back there. One connected platform across all of these, but also the ability to embed. Yammer has an API that allows you to embed that within all kinds of other applications as well. So it's one connected platform, and we're taking advantage of all of this. So this is something that you can then take and package and deliver to your customers from a value standpoint. So let me just spend a bit of time and take you through some of these technologies. So the first one I'm going to take you through, and I kind of bang on about this a fair bit, but it's the Outlook Social Connector. And this is something from Outlook 2010 and beyond is available as part of Office, and it's free. So in this particular case, I'm engaging with Fred and another of our colleagues around the MGX, which is our internal sales conference. We're doing a big keynote demo there. And what I want to be able to do is understand what's going on with each of these people, and it brings back insights from social networks as well as what's going on. So in this case, I've got a personal connection with Fred, so I can see what's going on in Facebook, but I can also see his posts on LinkedIn, whether or not he's had any change of role. It's incredibly powerful in the context of an email to have that social insight. I'm not having to jump to different tools to get that. There's also a LinkedIn application for Outlook 2013. So as I'm on an email, it will drag back, based on my relationships, it will drag back information about the people on that email. So straight away, obviously, I know about me, but I can get insight into Fred, and I can even drill down into his LinkedIn profile to understand, whatever he's exposed, his employment history, his education, all kinds of things that can be real nuggets of value when I'm actually dealing with Fred in a sales engagement. Then we get into things like the Yammer experience. So we talked about, within the context of a CRM process, having embedded Yammer capabilities. And this is now pervasive across any record, any entity within the CRM system. So if I want to, I can say, need financial service skills, contact me. And I can then go and choose to post that to different groups, different parts of the organization. I can go ahead and apply that update. So what actually happens from that perspective is, behind the scenes, it's going and creating a Yammer page. So every record in CRM has basically a Yammer page, and that's where it houses any of the conversations, any of the documents that relate to that particular record. So if I view that conversation in Yammer, there's my record within there. I can go ahead and write replies, I can post documents, I can ask questions and polls, I can give kudos and praise to people, all kinds of great things. But if I go into that particular page, there's the information in Yammer that just relates to that particular record. And then from there, the other beauty of Yammer is it's got a mobile client for pretty much any major mobile platform out there. So there's dedicated Yammer applications for WinPhone, iPhone, Android, iPad, Windows 8. They're all there to take advantage of. And when you've got the capability on having the link into the CRM record directly from there, one, if I'm a CRM user, I get that insight. If I'm a non-CRM user, I can still participate and collaborate around CRM processes. So it's a great loosely coupled solution that allows an organization to take advantage of integrated Yammer when they need to, but work with the tool set that they want to whenever it suits their purposes. A couple of other things also to bear in mind that's quite useful is in Yammer, I can actually go and define external networks. So this is where I can go and invite outside parties into a closed network. So in this case, our sample is that we set up a Revlon network for their key retailers. So we want to be able to engage with those people. So the scenario that we worked through here, this is all a mock-up, by the way. The scenario here is that something like 16 retailers, so the Walgreens, Walmarts, and those sorts of things, 16 retailers for Revlon equate to 80% of their global revenue. So it makes sense that they would want to have feedback from a community of those people about upcoming advertising, upcoming promotions, new products coming down the line. And this was the scenario we focused on here. In the context of being able to post video, so I can actually upload video or documents or anything that I want. and then using the polling mechanism to actually go and get real-time feedback around what people's thoughts were. So in a very simple fashion, but in a very secure fashion, I can get that feedback. Now, what I can also do is I can actually go ahead and publish that particular network into any other application I want. So I've got an example here. So the intention is that I'm actually able to go and embed this feed. So I can set it up around a group, around a network, and what it does is it generates, when you click on that embed this feed, it just gives you some HTML, and you can drop that into a CRM iframe, a CRM web resource, into a SharePoint iframe, into any web page, and you've got pretty much, let me go back to CRM, you've got pretty much that experience. It drops that control into any page that you want. So it's not that difficult. Now, there was a lot of other engineering work that we needed to do to synchronize records and all of that sort of stuff, but your ability to drop these kinds of social engagements into all kinds of systems is very, very simple, and Yammer makes that available. On top of that, they've got a full API, so you can programmatically create pages and create groups and do all kinds of things from there. So that's a very, very powerful construct with Yammer. One other thing that I wanted to talk about was in the context of Office 365, you can choose within SharePoint Online to be able to actually, let's go into the admin for SharePoint. I can go into the settings area and I can nominate what I want my enterprise social collaboration or news feed to be. So SharePoint has some great capabilities around microblogging, communities, sites, these sorts of things, and they're great around document collaboration. But they don't necessarily have all the richness of driving groups and likes and, you know, all these kinds of Facebook or Twitter-like constructs that people want to work with. So your choice or your customer's choice is, if I'm in the cloud or I'm comfortable using Yammer as a social collaboration platform, I can have that as my social collaboration element within SharePoint. Or if I'm on-premise and I don't have any interest in moving to the cloud, I've got these great social collaboration capabilities in SharePoint that I can take advantage of as well. So more and more we're allowing customers to mix and match and choose what's relevant to their business and what their appetite is from a cloud or on-premise standpoint. So the final part that I wanted to go in before I then start to, in fact, let me first of all just go forward on the roadmap side and really start talking about where we're heading from a social listening and what the NetBreeze acquisition looks like or what it means. So we made this acquisition at the beginning of this year, and it's a solution that enables you to do social listening across Twitter, Facebook, blogs, news boards, forums, RSS feeds, and being able to draw all of that information in and do analysis around buzz, volume, sentiment, all kinds of capabilities there. I can bring in different visualizations such as charts, tag clouds, and various other very interesting ways to look at social information. We're also working towards inline widgets, and I'll demonstrate, well, I won't demonstrate, I'll show you what that's going to look like in the context of CRM moving forward. It's also got native language sentiment analysis. So one of the challenges with many social listening platforms out there is I can do my search terms. It can go and trawl across Spanish and Portuguese and French and German and so on. But then the engine will actually go and translate that into English before it then applies the sentiment analysis, which I'm no linguistics expert, but I know enough about languages to go, you could really get the wrong end of the stick about certain statements in one language translated into English. So that was another important consideration for us in terms of the acquisition of NetBreeze. It also has a freemium model, so we'll be bringing to market essentially what we call community reports. So these are free of charge online reports that you can set up around specific subjects and topics, and it will give you limited insight about that particular topic. It will give you the buzz and a few other things around the fluctuation, but it doesn't do sentiment analysis and so on. But it's a great way to get customers on board and started to get excited about the opportunities with social listening. And then another aspect about it was it's incredibly simple to set up and manage, and I'm going to take you through that in the demonstration. So we look at how that manifests itself. So these, I must point out, are mock-ups. It's not necessarily reflective on what we're going to build, but you'll see we're looking at a CRM form for an account, Blue Yonder Airlines, and on the right-hand side, these are the widgets or embeddable insights that we're looking to provide as part of future releases of CRM. So imagine a salesperson being able to open an account and get insight in terms of what the social sentiment is around that company and its products and its services. The ability to understand whether there's been fluctuations in the volume of conversations about that organization. Find out where people are talking more about that prospect or that account, and getting that all within the context of CRM. So this is really living up to that vision I was talking about, it being seamless and embedded. Absolutely, you could go and hit the NetBreeze tool directly and do that, but isn't it fantastic that you can do that in context from where you are in the CRM system? This is a big differentiator for us moving forward. So let me actually take you through the tooling itself, and then hopefully we'll answer any questions. There's about 4 or 5 obligatory slides that have been added to my deck, unfortunately, but we'll take you through them. So let's have a look at NetBreeze. So it's a web application. My ability to go and set up my search terms, I'll show you that in just a second. But the first thing that I can do is I can actually set up the date range that I'm interested in. So maybe I'm interested in last week, a custom date range, last month, so on and so forth. Let me take you through. This is basically the central dashboard. So this top chart here gives me an indication on the breakdown of languages. So I can see for every subject that I'm looking for, I can see the breakdown across languages. So I can see most people are talking about Revlon and its brands or products in English. And then within English, I can see that nearly 44% of conversations are going on Twitter. So that in itself is kind of useful. I can start to map that to demographics and so on. Then on the bottom right chart here, I can see the breakdown of sentiment. So nearly 33% of conversations involving Revlon and these products and services are positive. That's a very good ratio. But I can also drill down into particular groups or categories. So maybe I'm the brand manager for Revlon's face care products. Or, for the ladies out there, I've done a lot of research now on face care products, there's a range called Nearly Naked. I can't make this stuff up. But the idea is that as a brand manager for the Nearly Naked range, I might want to understand what people are saying just about that category. So we've given the brand manager the ability to drill into face care products. So again, now I'm looking at a microcosm. I'm looking at what people are talking about face care products. I can see the volume of documents found. I can see the trending over time. So in this case, because it's last week, it's giving me the trend over the last 5 weeks. I can see also the sentiment indicator. It's on a range of -10 to +10. -10 means I hate your guts. +10 means I want to marry you. So you can see, and 0 being neutral. So I can see straight away that there's actually a bit of a decline in terms of volume. Doesn't necessarily translate to sentiment, but certainly there's been a decline in volume about people talking about Revlon's face care products. As I drill down further, I can see the sources of information. So again, we'll see that there's a large volume on Twitter that are talking about this. I can see the share of voice across those channels by language, and I can also even see the recent documents with their sentiment from there. So I can drill into further things. So maybe I'm interested across the different sources. I want to look at Twitter. So now we're drilling into further for face care products. I want to understand what people specifically on Twitter are saying, and I can see that there's 348 individual or unique authors of tweets. 8.3 is an incredibly positive value, so people are, as they talk about Revlon, are very positive in their conversation points. And I can see over time that actually Twitter is maintaining a fairly even trajectory in terms of conversations going on. I can see who's posting most about these products, and I can drill into specific documents. I must warn in advance, this is real data, so if you see an offensive picture or offensive language, I've got no control over it. So, but if we wanted to, I can drill into specific tweets, so maybe this one's pretty useful. It highlights why it's rated as positive, but I can also go and override that if I want to. It will also give me the Klout score. So there's an online service called Klout that measures or assesses the influence of someone in terms of social spheres. So I can see how influential they are. If I want to, I can even reply, retweet, so on and so forth. So this is really great analytics that gets me down to that granular level of detail. Now, as we move forward from a roadmap perspective, what we want is the ability for me not only to reply or retweet or what have you, but to be able to convert that into a service case or convert it into a lead or an opportunity or what have you. So these are great capabilities, but there's more to the tool than that. One of the things that I might want to do, and I talked about this as a scenario, is around an early warning system. So I want to be able to go in and say, you know what, let's go and let me know whether I've got a trend or on each individual document. So let me give you an example on what I mean. So I'm going to turn off specific languages. Let me just go into the watchdog. So what I'm saying here is for face care products, every single time I get a negative document or post, if you see the term document, it refers to a tweet or a Facebook post or a blog post. Every time I get a negative sentiment, I want these people to receive an email. Could be a bit of overkill if you're Revlon, you're going to spend your entire day clearing out your inbox. But it's a great way to be notified on an individual basis. As we move forward, roadmap-wise, we're going to be making this available as SMS, as well as emails, as well as pushing things directly into CRM queues. So that's one option that I've got. I can also go into the advanced setup and I can say, you know what, I'm actually only interested if it's on the Twitter channel. I'm only interested if it's these 1, 5, 10 people who are tweeting about it because we identified they're our influencers, and only then notify me. Only notify me if they're an incredibly influential via their Klout score. There's a whole range that you can define the alerts accordingly. I can also go in and set what we call a trend scout. So this is where it's going to start to look for spikes of sentiment of whatever I define and alert me when that happens. So if I start to see, or the system detects, that there's a groundswell of negative sentiment within a particular time frame, and I can define that, then it's going to alert me. So not on every individual post, but it's going to be smart about identifying trends for me. So this is the reason why Taco Bell and Domino's Pizza are able to hopefully get ahead of the game and get into a problem early rather than waiting until CNN and every other newspaper and media organization gets hold of that viral tweet or that picture or what have you. So these kinds of tools are what makes it very, very valuable. Let me also just show you finally on the settings side how I actually go and set up the search terms that I'm looking for. So in this case, let's say we'll go into the face care products that I was showing you. Here's where across the different languages I can pick the keywords and phrases that I'm looking for. But more importantly, I want to be able to set up inclusions and exclusions. I don't want to come up with bronzer unless it mentions Revlon in the same thing. I certainly don't want to look for nearly naked without Revlon in it, because I'll get all kinds of stuff. I haven't gone and looked, but it's not going to be pretty. But these things is where I can define what I'm going to search for, how I refine that search, the phrases that I want to look for, and then I can apply categories about, okay, well, does this search item apply to my company or my competitor or my brand or people? So I can do all of that categorization and reporting directly within the tool as well. And I can choose what channels that I want specific searches to go for, so I'm not necessarily trawling the entire web. I might only be interested in Twitter. So I can do those sorts of things as well. So that's fundamentally the tool set and some of the capabilities that you'll see being brought to market. Let me just close out briefly with a couple of thoughts around what that roadmap looks like. So first and foremost, the NetBreeze tool that you saw will remain available as a standalone service. Now, we haven't figured out the pricing and licensing and all of that sort of stuff yet, but we definitely want to, for those organizations that want to use it just for listening and analytics, we want to preserve that capability. We're also going to be delivering the embedded insights directly within CRM. And we're also going to be investing in the engagement aspect or the integration with CRM. So the ability to go and convert things from social into a CRM process, whether it's sales, service, or marketing. The time frames on when that's going to happen, we're going to be more definitive on that towards the end of the calendar year about when the releases will appear. But we are close to launching an early access program for NetBreeze that will allow strategic customers to be able to start working with the solution and have a look at it in a standalone fashion. So look for the announcements around how you nominate your customers and prospects for that, and you'll go into a process where that's assessed and then determine whether or not that organization will be part of the early access program. So it's an incredibly exciting acquisition, an incredibly exciting set of investments that we're making, and we're certainly moving into an area where we have a very clear vision about what social and social CRM means. We have an extensive tool set across not only Dynamics CRM but the broader Microsoft stack, and we have a unique position to be able to deliver this in an integrated fashion. So let me just close out with, there's a couple of slides that I have to go through. Make sure you evaluate. I get fired unless I get a great score, so please be generous. But in all essence, your feedback helps shape what we do as far as these sessions are concerned, and there's some great opportunities to contribute and win things there. You can also get exam vouchers, so you can go and purchase exam vouchers, and there's great discounts there for folks that want to be building up on competencies and those sorts of things. So there's some great incentive deals there. And there's also some early bird pricing for WPC 2014. So there's the details there. So finally, before I close out, a key thank you to the sponsors for Partner Conference. We're always very appreciative of the role that they play. I'll be sticking around for at least another 10 to 15 minutes if people have questions about anything that you've seen. But with that, I thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of the conference.